Cool. Alrighty then. First things first. So most of you have made your way to Saltmarsh in pursuit of your own endeavours. Some of them are of a personal nature, some of them not so much. Okay, so I need to roll a d6. Okay, cool. Brad, or Red Sand, I should address you as. As you're making your way into the town of Saltmarsh, you're travelling along the actual coastline where the shore meets the grassy section before it goes further inland.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens to catch your eye as you make intrigued as tabaxis are. You make your way to this object you see washed up again on the shore, and so it's a book, a rather like really soggy red leather-bound book. It looks like it's been in the water for some time, and and as you pull open the first page, you see, and I'll put this in your journal. You see the following. Now, has that come up into your journal?
It has indeed.
Yes. So when you open up the book, the pages are soggy, and you see that image. The ink is actually running, so it's not like perfectly like as if someone's just written in it. It's like obviously because it's been in the water for quite some time.
Yeah.
It's
blurred
starting to run down. Yeah, it's blurred and hard to read. As you actually grab the book, you feel like not like something come over you, but you feel like you have to protect this book. Don't know why. It's just like you're starting to become a bit obsessive about it. You just grab it, pull it to your chest, and you continue on your way into Saltmarsh.
Well, I guess I could forget about Hellroar for a while.
Hey?
I guess I could forget about Hellroar for a while.
Yeah? So, one by one, you each arrive to the town of Saltmarsh. Some of you seek shelter in the local taverns. Some of you may not. It's all up to personal preference. But by the time the last of you actually reach into Saltmarsh, the sun's starting to set and a storm is actually coming across from the actual ocean. It's like blowing in, the wind's galing. You can hear the faint sounds, the faint sounds. Just trying to get some something. The faint sound of thunder starting to rumble overhead. There we go. So, Red Sand. You're in one of the many taverns that exist in Saltmarsh. You're sitting at a table all by yourself, and you'll start going through this. Start opening up the first pages of the book. As the rain spatters on the grubby windows of the tavern for which you've taken shelter, you begin to flip through the waterlogged book that you discovered early in the day. The pages are frayed and mottled with sand. The writing's faded and barely legible. But something compels you to read on. You can't say for sure what, but ever since you found the book in the waters of Saltmarsh, you feel that something's calling you, like the actual ocean is calling to you. As you begin to turn through the pages, you start deciphering some of the text Some that's blurred. That's some of it's eligible, but some of it's too far gone from the wet to be able to read. The writing appears to be in a kind of like a written common. It's like it's not like broken common. It's like whoever's written in this book is educated.
Okay.
You can almost say that it almost befits someone of a upper class standing, well educated. As you begin making your way down, as your fingers make your way down halfway down the page, you just stop. You just stop, and you notice the 3 words that seem to stick into the back of your mind: the calm Delilah. You feel this name is important, so you grab a piece of parchment nearby and write down the word. At least the name gets pretty much washed away by the wet pages. You feel that the name. You begin to mutter the name, ship of the name, deep inside your thoughts. Excuse me. Let's see. There we go.
It's like I'm really at a tavern with rain.
Yes, I know. The storm is continuing to brew out, to continue blowing outside. As you turn to the nearby window to look out, you notice that glancing through the murky panes, you see a figure running to and fro. You can see the outer edge of the figure. You begin to notice that one particular figure catches your attention, and it appears to be of a woman. And the one thing that catches you is her piercing green eyes, wide with what appears to be shock, and her hair looks unkept. And she just stares at you through the window, even though she's getting absolutely drenched by the rain. She presses a damp hand to the window, as if trying to actually reach for you. Her eyes are filled with fear and terror. You feel your feet press on the wooden floor, standing up suddenly, reaching for the window, as your chair clatters to the ground behind you. But before you can actually reach the window, you hear like a gruff bellow coming from behind you, and a hand reaches and grabs you on the shoulder, spinning you round. "Yeah, what's the big idea you throwing your chair at me? You looking for a fight or what?" Standing in front of you is a large portly man, sporting a bushy fisherman's beard and a thick, musky odour of an evening of drinking heavily. You shake the drunk off, quickly stepping away to allow the nearby doorman space to handle the ragged sailor and turn back to the window. But by then, the figure is gone. You gather your effects, closing the book carefully, slipping its contents back into your pack. Deciding to retire to your quarters for the night, you bolt the door shut. You sit on the cramped mattress, muttering aloud your thoughts once more. You let your questions permeate in the air as 3 questions fill your mind. What is the importance of the book? Who was that woman in the window? And the most important of all, whatever became of the calm Delilah? So, yeah. So now I'm going to give you the pages that are eligible at the moment for you to read. Go with me while I... So in your journal should be a series of pages coming up.
So are these visible to everybody else,
No.
or just me?
Just you, because you've got the book, and everyone else is arriving at different points in the day and seeking shelter in different areas.
Then in that case, I hope the others aren't watching the stream.
Oh, if they are, they are.
Ow.
Cunts. So as you begin to go through the books, you begin to see the separate pages, and as you continue to read them, you feel sleep take over, and you nod off for the night. And as you awaken the next morning, the storm and the rain has ceased. Just as quickly as that. Okay. So the next morning arises. The storm has passed. The sun is shining, and it's a perfect day for sailing. You'll begin to make your way to the docks, where, apart from some small fishing boats that are moored on the nearby piers, you see one ship that stands out amongst the rest. Quite large in size. It has 3 masts. I believe it's got 3 masts. Yeah. Hang on. I missed a part, sorry. Yeah. You all begin your short walk towards the docks, grabbing a light breakfast from a nearby stall before crossing onto the wooden pier. For some of you, sailing might not have been your first choice for a job, but the advertisement that showed the job for new deckhands advertised that the pay was good. You look around at the bustling hive of activities surrounding you, men and women busying themselves with the morning's activities before your eyes settle on a vast sailing ship, much larger and finer than any of the smaller fishing vessels native to Saltmarsh. Though a small scouting frigate of some kind, it still dwarfed many of the tiny sailing boats that shared the surrounding waters, and sported a number of fearsome-looking carronades protruding from within the hull. Basically, carronades are smaller versions of standard cannons. So yeah, just in case you were wondering. As each of you make your way to the actual pier, you look up and notice that freshly painted on the starboard bow, the ship's name reads Persistent Imperial. Yeah. I think I spelled that wrong. There we go. One by one, you all gather around the boarding plank, and you navigate your way over the muddy, rickety wooden ramp and onto the deck, where a number of other crew members are already hard at work, preparing to set sail. As you gather near the point where you boarded, you hear a hearty laugh bellow out across the ship. You look to the direction of the laugh, and you see a burly-looking half-orc striding over to greet you and your group. Welcome aboard. He offers a meaty hand towards to each and every one of you. So, do you take up the offer of a handshake?
Yes, all at once.
You just all put your hand out. So one by one, he reaches out, and some of you are probably a lot more hesitant than others. But for those who are hesitant, he just reaches down and grabs your hand and gives you a nice, strong, almost crushing your hand kind of shake. And this is the individual that greets you.
Nice.
So you notice that his hair is braided, shoulder length, and he goes, "The name's Koresh Bonebreaker, but you can call me Koresh. By the looks of your lot, I can see some of you have sailed before, and others not so much. Not to worry, you'll soon get your sea legs, and provided you pull your weight around here, we shouldn't have any problems." He then directs all of you to a set of stairs that lead down to the interior of the ship. Go get settled below deck, then be ready for the bell. We'll be setting sail shortly.
I'll look at him and say, "Forgive me, but you nay look like the captain."
Well, that you'd be right. I ain't the captain, but he'll be making an appearance shortly.
Ye be the quartermaster then?
Aye, that I be. Sounds like you've had some sailing experience yourself.
Yar, I've been sailing these waters for longer than I can remember.
What be your name then there?
They call me old Sharkbite Jones, and you'd think that be because of the missing legs and all, and you'd be right.
Quite a name to remember. Let's hope that you're as good as a sailor as you are as a talker.
I'll hobble down the stairs and unpack my things.
No worries. So what's everyone else doing? You all following suit, or?
Yes, Spite will just look at the orc and nod and say, "Yep," and grab your stuff and plod on down.
Very well. So I suppose at this point it'd be a good time to explain, describe who else is in the group. So you got kind of like a dwarf, bushy beard, taut skin, looks like he's been out in the sun for quite some time.
Yeah.
I would say middle-aged, correct?
Well, when everyone gets settled in, the dwarf goes and leans against the wall, and if you look at him, you would think that he's a simple man who's had a very simple life of manual labor. He looks quite peaceful and content. It doesn't look like he would speak much. If you were a betting person, it'd be a safe bet. You'd be a country bumpkin, a simple hardworking man. Think a farmer, and that's so. He's of average height, average age for a dwarf. He's wearing thick fur clothing. On his back, there's a big pike. Beside that pike, there's a smaller spear. Now he's got a handful of javelins hooked into the side of his belt.
A well-armed dwarf.
Yeah, that's why you would assume that a common farmer wouldn't know how to use a martial weapon like a pike or the spear, but he just seems like a really simple country bumpkin farmer type.
Fair enough. So, as Ash has just explained his character, probably will be the best time for each and every one of you to describe yourselves and all that. You look like. So we'll go. Next would be Red Sand.
Certainly. Well,
Give us a brief description of yourself.
for her first appearance, she appears to be very, very young. She's, not 20 yet. At the moment, she has a quite distracted, far-off look in her eyes, even though she's able to follow along and do as she's told for now. Also, she is well armed, having a sword at her waist and a bow on her back. And not to mention those claws.
And does she make a point of of the claws? Does she kind of like just stretch them out, sort of thing? You know?
No, not necessarily, but they are painted blue, so against her red fur.
Definitely does stand out. Right. Awesome. All right. So next member of the newest member of the group, you see a halfling.
So you guys would probably all look at Percy and think, what the hell is he doing in this group? I am 3.5 foot tall, but I always make a point to tell everyone I'm 3'1", so it makes me sound taller. I'm rather on the stocky end. I have dark brown hair, hazel eyes, and big chunky square sideburns. My pride and glory is my mustache, which I've been growing for my entire 52 years of life. I twirl the ends around in those little twisty things. I wear I wear like bright yellow clothing with like a purple shirt underneath. So think of like suspenders and that sort of like overalls, sort of like bright yellow overalls. And they have like really cool shiny buttons on them. Do I tell you like the basic backstory or?
Oh, it really depends if Percy is the sharing kind or if he's a bit, not so much. Can explain why you're working on the ship. Why you got the job on the ship. It's all up to you, really.
So, Percy's very talkative. I grew up on a farm and I lived with my mum, dad, and my grandma. And my best friend was my goat named Gertie. And I decided to come out and work on a ship to earn some extra money because I just like to be a dad. So I'd like to provide for my children. I don't have any yet.
It's a very honourable
You're future
endeavour.
conscious.
But yeah, that's Percy.
Cool. All right. And then you all look over and you see this old fella that looks like he could collapse at any moment, or he's been through a lot by the looks of it.
He doesn't look okay. So Jones, he doesn't look frail necessarily, but he looks weather worn. He probably looks about 10 years older than he is, and is already decently old. He's missing both of his legs, and in place of the bottom half of both of his legs, he has 2 wooden peg legs. So he walks already with a waddle-ish, limp gait, with both of his 2 peg legs constantly clanking around on the boards of the ship. He wears either a cap or a hat, depending on the weather, and has long greyed, dishevelled beard and hair. He doesn't wear armor and he doesn't carry any weapons. He looks very much like he's a sailor, but he does seem to carry around. Well, carrying onto the ship, he would have carried a chest with all of his belongings. But after taking the belongings out, he would have gathered what look like books and weird trinkets and talismans that are a bit strange for the average person to be carrying around, but that's just like probably the crazy knickknacks of an old man. And finally, on his shoulder, that doesn't seem to leave at all, is what looks like a very maimed and almost on death's door parrot. It looks worse off than he does. That just looks around, seemingly cautiously, but it really doesn't move much Doesn't look like it has much life left in it.
Looks like it could keel over at any moment. Cool. All right, and then the final member, like newest member, definitely stands out. Well, aside from the tabaxi and the dwarf and halfling, you see blue. Or would you say the blue skin? Correct. Blue skinned individual. Quite interesting. Who is she?
So Elryn is, I guess, slightly taller than average. Well, I guess for a human, I should say. And yeah, she's got blue skin. She's got dark blue eyes, dark hair. Some of it matted because she doesn't really, spend the time to like comb it and such, spending most of her time in the water. I guess she is here because, well, I guess I shouldn't reveal too much, but
Well, it really depends on what the reason for why they're on the ship. If it's a private matter, she might not feel compelled because you don't want to reveal everything to a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, I'll just say that she's curious about the ship, and she seems to be looking at everything with huge intent. She doesn't really try and talk to anyone that much. She might approach like the captain or the quartermaster to ask a whole bunch of questions. But yeah, she's pretty much she seems interested in everything. And she doesn't really mind like people staring at her, or if she stands out, it doesn't really bother her. She doesn't really carry much on her. She's got like her rags that she wears. She's got like a small coin pouch, but that's about it. You can really visibly see. But yeah, she's just taking everything in.
Cool. And I would say old Sharkbite Jones might know who she is, considering his experience. Then again, he might not.
Yara look like a merfolk.
Just throw that, the little bit at the end. Yeah, so cool. So you all arrive to the below decks. Basically, pick a bunk that you're going to stay in. Sort your stuff out, and you kind of introduce yourselves as well as you just did. And as you're doing that, you suddenly hear this bell ringing up top, and you suddenly hear Koresh yell at. It's like, "Stand to attention, all! Make your way to the main deck." And then you hear a bunch of footsteps of people running around and all that, and pretty much that's the call for everyone to make their way onto the top deck.
I'll make a note to get a middle bunk.
Yeah.
So that it sways the least.
Yeah.
So instruct everybody else that doesn't look like they've sailed before to do the same.
Fair enough. Using your knowledge, past knowledge, to get the best spot, so to speak. And as this is going on, you also begin to feel the actual ship lurch, and old Sharkbite Jones, you kind of know that sensation. The ship is pretty much on its way. It's left the docks, and it's begun to set sail. So you all make your way up top deck, and you see more members of the crew that you didn't quite see before. They could have been in different parts of the ship, or they may not have made it onto the ship as yet, but now they're all there. So Koresh, the half-orc, but there's also you also spot at the up here. You see what appears to be like a half elf woman. She's just looking out to all of you as you make your way up. and you do notice that she's got a number of piercings and tattoos running up and down her body. You see what appears to be a tiefling. She's just kind of standing next to a couple of the carronades. She looks like she's actually examining them, and she looks like she could be trouble if you get on a bad side. And one thing you do notice about it is she's got a couple of pistols attached to her waist, one on either side. Then on a nearby barrel, which I believe I've forgotten to actually bring him out, just sitting there, kind of just just looking at everyone, kind of scoping the new flesh or the new plebs. It's a halfling. Wrong one. Sorry. And he looks kind of well dressed. He's sporting a small mustache, and hair goes down to just above his shoulders. And he's got this flute in his hand, and he appears to be cleaning it. And then, as you're making their way, you're standing around just waiting, and then coming out from this doorway, you see a man who appears to be the captain. He holds himself with authority, arms behind his back. And he starts introducing himself. My name is Captain Takumi. For those of you who have had the pleasure of sailing with me, you know I am a fair man. If you work hard, you get rewarded. But if you slack off, I am not impartial to punishment. Now, it's time to announce the reason for why we are setting sail. And it is to look for the wreckage of a merchant vessel that some of you may know but some of you may have heard of. It's named the Calm Delilah. He begins
Red's ears prick up at this.
Yeah. He begins to explain that the Calm Delilah was transporting exotic goods and vanished a few months earlier. Many believe that the ship fell victim to piracy. Others believe that the ship actually sunk during a heavy storm. But for whatever the reason, the crew and the crew and the ship have been hired by a wealthy benefactor to set sail and look for the missing ship. If they do find it, they are to recover whatever the cargo is and bring back to port. Based on the value of the cargo in question, each member of the crew will be paid a percentage of its worth. And then he looks around and he stops speaking, and he goes, and before I continue, I spot a few new members of the crew. And he gives a slight nod, and he goes, I welcome you, and I expect nothing but the best from all of you.
Yep. Viet just nods and goes, yep.
And then he goes, and now that is done, I leave the rest to my second in command, Koresh. And he points to Koresh, who then makes his way, who was up here at the time, and then makes his way down to the actual main deck itself. As Captain Takumi turns back into his cabin. So he begins to eye you over, and at this point, he starts pointing out to each and every one of you, and he says, "We got a list of chores that need to be done while we're underway." And he begins to offer. He begins to state the different chores. You can either hoist the sails, clean the deck, climb the crow's nest, and be like surveillance or lookout. Make any repairs to the ship that could be done while away, or assist in the navigation.
Is this what looks like this ship's entire regular crew?
That's one thing you do notice. It actually looks like they may be undermanned. For a ship this size, it looks like it should have more crew than what currently present.
Well, I'd assume that's why they hired us. But
Yes.
I was just checking that I would assume that this size crew that we have now is now normal for the ship.
Yeah, it's adequate enough to operate the ship. It appears that apart from maybe yourself, old Sharkbite, there's not much in the way of experience on board. So some of the older crew members appear to be experienced in some regards, but as for the others, a lot more less experienced crew members than there are experienced ones. All right, so after a while, he begins to actually give out directions. So let's see.
Well, Viet will offer to hoist the sails,
All right.
and he'll say that he's used to manual labour, so he doesn't mind doing that.
Sure. So you go to hoist the sails. I need you to make a athletics check.
Alrighty, cool.
First official roll, I guess, of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Of the adventure. Oh, jeez. All right, you just grab hold onto those ropes, and you just start pulling onto ropes, and the sails just begin to open up with ease. It's like you're not even struggling. It's like this kind of work is easy compared to the stuff you've done in the past. And within like 5-10 minutes, you've managed to unfurl all the sails with ease. And you actually catch the eye of Koresh, who's surprised at how quickly you were able to unfurl those sails. And he looks at you and he just gives you a nod of approval.
And Viet just goes, "Yep," and nods back.
Excuse me. All right, so Viet's been doing that. Who wishes to clean the deck?
Percy would like to do lookout, please.
All right, so Percy offers to climb the main mast up into the crow's nest. So you just make your way up to the crow's nest, and after a short while, you disappear out of sight as you kind of hop in and begin to just look out. So that just leaves cleaning the deck, repairing repairing like hatches and leaks and stuff like that, and assisting in navigation.
Red will assist with the navigation. She's got
Cool.
experience with maps and that, so.
All right. Well, as you put your hand up to assist in navigation, Koresh just goes, "Well, then you can aid our fine friend here, Franklin. Hey, Franklin, you've got some help with your navigation." And Franklin looks up as he's, just putting away his flute, and he goes, "Alrighty then, let's see what you got. Come with me then." And he begins to lead you to the little table where he's got all his charts and all that. And yeah, you're off to do that. So that just leaves repairing the hatches and cleaning the deck. So Viet, Percy, and Red Sand have got their chores. Who wants to clean? Who wants to repair the hatches?
I'm assuming. Hang on. Who was it? What was his name? It's going to be hard to remember everybody's names plus 5 more. Well, actually, I'll just refer them by the roles. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I'll ask the quartermaster, or say to him, it seems you may have a carpenter aboard your ship.
That we don't. Are you offering to do some of the repairs?
I may know how to fix the wood as well as another, but I've seen a few nails be driven into planks before, and I can see the one that swims rather than take the boats wouldn't be as much of a use.
Well then, and he kind of directs you over to a bunch of tools, and he goes, better get started then. So he gives you like a hammer and nails and all the necessary items to begin repairs on the ship. So I need you to either make a sleight of hand or athletics check, whichever is better for you.
Either are good.
Oh well.
Hang on, where am I?
I don't know. You just disappeared.
Roll20's been kind of weird with loading and stuff.
Oh, is it?
Hang on. I'll refresh and get my stats.
Okay. So as you're all beginning your chores, you suddenly see this old Sharkbite Bones just kind of stop in the middle of mid-stride.
Well, I mean, I'd be looking at it to try and figure out what I'm actually doing. Because
yeah, you do as you survey the like areas of the ship and all that. And Koresh also begins to point out certain sections and all that need repair. And he pretty much says, all right, after you fix that, you can fix that, you can seal that, you can do this, and he just points out different areas that need to be done. And it's not just the top deck; it's also like the different, like the middle deck, the lower deck, and So he points out to the different areas of repair, and he leaves. And as you begin to start making the hammering the nails in, you actually do the old hammer on the thumb trick, and you actually take a point of bludgeoning damage as you smack your thumb trying to actually nail.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it's just like, and you suck on your thumb as the pain shoots up your hand.
In fact, I probably would imagine, based off of this character, that there'd be hardly a reaction at all. There's probably been enough thumb jams in his life, plus other things, to just take it and go.
Yeah, you just every second or third swing of the hammer, you just inadvertently hit your hand or you miss the nail. And sometimes you've actually broken planks of wood that you weren't broken at first, but now they are because you've missed the nail, and you have to now repair that. So the work which would have been done probably
repair shall remain.
You've actually made a little areas worse than they should be. So you go off to do that, and that takes you some time because there are different areas that need repair. Right, and as Koresh comes back from directing old Sharkbite, he looks at Elryn, and he goes, "That just leaves you, little lady." And he kind of walks over and he pulls up a pail and mop, and he goes, "The decks need to be cleaned." And he just hands them out to you.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take it, but you could probably see on her face she's not really happy about it. So I'll just, nod like, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
And then I would probably like. I mean, I know how to use this, but I'd probably just do like the bare minimum. And just lightly clean
Okay.
the deck. Might use the water to refresh myself a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what I'll get you to do is I will get you to do an athletics check just to see how much effort you actually put into cleaning the decks.
All right.
I don't do much mopping in the ocean.
No. If anything, you make the decks wet from the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not
Yeah,
really
that's accurate.
you're not really enthusiastic about the fact that you've been left cleaning the deck, and Koresh actually notices this, and he just gives you like a kind of like the "I'll be watching you" because he can see the satisfied look on your face. But then he turns off to do his own thing, and you just put the bucket down, get a bit of water, and just start mopping the same area. You haven't even gone beyond the area that you're standing in, and you're just mopping.
Yep.
Stopping for 5 minutes, just looking around, and then kind of just mopping again. And you're not really cleaning the deck. You just made this one spot actually spotless for a time. So yeah. So each and every one of you kind of proceed on to doing your tasks and chores, and you begin to look around, and you start seeing the tiefling kind of looking at the guns, making sure she appears to be examining them. Checking where you put the flint in and all that, making sure that there's enough powder charges nearby, checking that there's enough cannonball rounds nearby, and you see the half-elf woman from before. She kind of looks over, makes her way over, and she actually introduces herself to you, Elryn. And she's like, "So, how are you taking to life on the sea? I suppose someone of your nature is more comfortable in the water than above it."
That's where I've spent the majority of my life, but chose to have a change and experience the side of you surface dwellers.
Well, quite an interesting career choice, I will say. But the closer you are to the ocean, I suppose, the closer you are to home.
That's exactly why I chose this role.
Well, and she just looks down at the one spot you've been cleaning, and she kind of smiles, and she goes, "Keep up the good work, I guess."
Okay.
She begins to make her way down below deck. And one by one, she actually before she leaves, she goes, "Oh, and you can call me, you can call me Anna, or Dr. Barravane. I'm the ship's doctor. So if you feel unwell or you hurt yourself, I'll be the one to tend to you, take care of you. But let's just hope that doesn't happen."
Okay.
So then she makes her way down below deck. Redsan, you're currently surveilling the maps with Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at you and goes, "So, are you familiar with the ocean maps? Have you had some experience?"
None just yet, but mapping in general, I've had experience with. It can't be that much different, right?
Well, let's have a look, shall we? And he actually lays out the map in front of you, and he goes, I want you to point out certain landmarks that might appear on this map." And he actually shows you the map, and you do see different things around the map, but you can't tell whether they're actual islands or what. So I will need you to make either insight or survival check.
They're both as good as each other.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, so you begin to actually survey the map, and you start pointing out, okay, this is an island. This is like a hazard. That's a area known for looks like whirlpools and stuff like that. And you're actually spot on with everything you pointed out, and you actually impress Franklin. And he goes, "Well, for someone who's never actually read a sea map before, you pretty much got it down. Better be careful. You might end up taking my job." And then he starts pointing, and then he starts going over, like, where they're the direction they're sailing, and the projected path of where the Calm Delilah actually was like headed, and possible locations of where the actual shipwreck might be. And you do that for the next hour. Percy, you're currently sitting atop the scarecrow. That's what it's called. Yeah, it's scarecrow.
Crow's Nest.
Crow's Nest. That's it. You begin to survey the surrounding area, and you do see off in the distance the shoreline of where Saltmarsh and the rest of the Sword Coast is. And as you're beginning to sail, you see it slowly dissipate. Because you haven't had much experience on the open ocean, have you, Percy? Or Alex?
Oh, sorry. I did
That's
say
right.
no. I said none.
None? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll generally address you by your character's name, just to keep...
Oh, no, I did respond. I just think there must have been like a glitch in my headphones. Sorry.
Okay. No. All right, cool. So you've been up... So the ship's been sailing... has been sailing for about 2 hours now, and being in the Crow's Nest... it's starting to rock, because you're at the highest point of the entire ship, where below the ship might be rocking a little bit. It's actually rocking a lot more up top, and it's not a very pleasant feeling. So I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. All right. So you do feel a little queasy, but you just kind of, just shake it off, and it's like, just, nothing too bad about it. You just continue surveilling the area, and I'll get you to make a perception roll as well.
Not
So,
effective. Not bad.
yeah. So you just survey the area. You don't really see much, like, in the way of landmarks or any other ships for that matter. It's just clear blue ocean, and it's actually quite a serene sort of like view that you're looking at. So you just keep doing that for the time being. Old Sharkbite. So you're going along, making repairs as best you can. Not having much luck, as some of the planks that weren't damaged before now have, marks where the hammers hit them. I'll need you to make another sleight of hand or strength check. Or athletics check, I mean.
These hatches aren't getting done.
No, I suppose not. Actually,
I did say this.
yeah, you did. Oops. There we go. there's one point where you're actually hammering and you actually lose your grip on the hammer and it goes flying behind you. And you hear it hit some wood behind you and then drop. And when you look around, you can't see it. The hammer's gone, lost somewhere amongst a bunch of crates and all that. So yeah. So now you're stuck there with a bunch of nails, but with no hammer. You can attempt to look for it if you wish.
Well, actually, I'm pretty good at that, so I'll go find it.
So I'll just do a perception.
All right. Now, this is when I was setting up my character. This is what I spent all my time doing. I had to set up a command to change it because I have 2 different roles.
Okay. All right. So, grumbling to yourself, you make your way over to where you thought you heard the hammer drop, and you move to like a box here, a crate there, and you're just lucky enough that that hammer hadn't completely fallen where you couldn't reach it, and you just see it there propped up against the side of the ship, and you grab it, and then you make your way back to continuing your attempt at repairs. So yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, I might just, if I think I'm failing because of my ineptitude and it's not going to get better, I might just give up at a certain point and help do something else.
Alright. So back on deck is Elryn. She's still standing there mopping the same spot, and then she hears footsteps come up behind her, and she feels like this presence behind her. She looks over his shoulder and she sees Koresh just looking down at her, and you can see the annoyance in his face. And he goes, "I think that spot is clean. You got the rest of the deck to do. Get to it."
Sure thing. And I salute.
Well, I need you to make another strength athletics check. Okay. So you make the effort. You make it look like you're actually. Oh, yep. Okay. I better go off and all that. But as he begins to turn around, you just go to another spot and just do the same thing. And just it's like you're just leaning up against some like one of the masts, and you just with one hand just kind of pushing the mop back and forth, making it look like you're busy, but you're really not. You're just doing a half-assed attempt at cleaning the decks.
Yep.
So yeah. So one by one, you're all continuing with chores, and this goes on for a few hours, and the night passes, and the next day comes by. So you've been sailing for 2 days so far. Percy, as you're surveilling the surrounding waters, I need you to do a perception check.
Right.
Oh, excuse me.
So yeah, you don't really spot anything. Well, not at first anyway. As you continue to look at the sea, you suddenly are surprised by a huge whale that's just suddenly leaps out of the water, crashing down like about 200 feet from the actual hull itself. It's a spectacular sight, to be honest. You've never seen a creature like this before, and to see how big it is and how close it is, you're absolutely awestruck by it. And it keeps doing this, and you should notice that it actually follows you for about an hour, every now and again, breaching out of the water and then crashing down. And then all of a sudden, the whale again breaches out of the water, but this time it really, really close. And when it actually impacts the water, a huge wave comes crashing into the actual hull of the Persistent Imperial. Percy, I need you to make a dexterity saving throw. So you manage to grab onto the edge of the crow's nest as you feel the ship just rock violently. It kind of actually slams you against the side of the crow's nest, but you manage to stop yourself from actually falling over. But then, as you manage to brace yourself, sort yourself out, you suddenly hear from below, "Man overboard!" And you look down and you see two figures running to the edge of the one end of the ship, and you see one pointing out to the water. And as you look over, you actually see a figure in the water. So I see. It appears to be the tiefling who was looking at the cannons earlier the other day. It appears that she's actually fallen in the water. The impact of the actual when the boat was rocking, she's actually fallen overboard. What do you guys do?
Need this?
Yes. Well, let's see. I will say, Viet and Red Sand. You see it happen, but Sharkbite and the others, they hear Koresh yell, because it's Koresh that actually yells it out, and you hear him call out "man overboard." So Red Sand and Viet, you see this tiefling woman, who's by this point you know her name as
Oriana.
Oriana. Yeah, you know as Oriana. You've seen Oriana actually go over the edge.
By this stage, how far away is she?
She's already gone about 20 feet away from the ship, as the water just looks like it's actually dragging her away from the ship.
Is there a coil of rope nearby?
Yeah, there's a few coils of rope lying around the masts and all that.
I grab one, tie one end to the end of an arrow, to the tail end of an arrow, give the other end to who was with me?
Viet.
Yeah.
And fire it as close as I can without actually harming her.
Alright, so I need you to... do you have a longbow with you? Or
I do.
The stat? Well, shoot that. But don't worry about the damage for it. Alright. Alright, so 21. So your pinpoint accuracy, you're able to shoot the longbow, despite the fact that you're actually on the ship's actually rocking quite bad, but it's not severe enough that it's going to throw you off, and you actually shoot it, and it lands about 5 feet away from it. And Viet, you're holding on to some of the rope, correct?
Yes, really.
All right. Let's see.
Athletics.
Yeah, I'll get you to do an athletics just to hold on to. Yeah. All right. So you've got a firm grip on the rope, ready to pull on it if told to do so.
Yeah.
So,
Veit will look over at Red Sand and just nod and say, "Yep, got it."
All right. So I'm going to do a first. All right, so Oriana actually sees the rope, and she sees where it lands, and she begins to try and actually swim towards it, but she's not that strong. So let's see. All right. But in pure desperation and adrenaline, she's able to swim towards the rope, and she manages to grab onto the rope, and she starts actually waving as if to indicate that she's got the rope.
Okay.
So
I'll also help Viet with pulling the rope back.
All right, cool. So I'll give Viet. The Viet can actually roll athletics with advantage because Red Sand's actually helping.
Awesome. Veit just nods and says, "Thanks."
So you begin pulling on the rope, and it's actually surprisingly a lot harder than you thought, as the water's actually fighting against you, but you begin to pull the rope in, and Red saying you actually look out and you see that it looks like that Oriana's actually making her way towards closer to the ship. She gets to, by this point, she's actually gone about 100 feet away from the ship. As you're pulling her in, she's moved about 20 feet. And then all of a sudden, you see this whale kind of come out of the water again. It doesn't doesn't come underneath her. It kind of breaches about 150 feet away from her. It comes out of the water, twists, and then lands on its back. And a huge crash of water, like huge waves, just crash over it and actually towards the ship. I need first. I need Red Sand and Viet to make a dexterity save to see if they're actually stay standing. Yep. So Red Sand, you managed to remain standing, and so does Viet. Percy, you're seeing all this transpire in the crow's nest, and when the whale comes out again and hits the water again, it actually knocks the boat again. I need you to make a dexterity as well, just to make sure that you'll remain within the crow's nest. Okay. Well, unfortunately, by this point, you were caught off guard by the whale coming out again. You were so focused on what was the rescue below, you didn't even see the whale appear, and it just knocks you, and you go tumbling out of the crow's nest, and you just fall into the water. Because actually, you hit the water hard. Was it fall damage? What's that again? About 4. No, damn it. Sometimes Roll20 is not your friend. Okay. I think it's 1d6 for every 10 feet, correct? No. Because the actual crow's nest is about 20 feet above. Yeah, takes 1d for every 10 feet. Okay, so roll 2d6. Okay, so you take 6 points of bludgeoning damage each. You hit the water hard. It's almost like hitting concrete. And Red saying, you just out in the corner of your eye, you see this image just go right past you over the ship. By this point, the rest of you have actually, I'll say she's actually be a good. So to the right side of the ship, I don't know. So where I'm kind of blinking now is the right side of the screen. That's about roughly how far away she is from the ship. Percy's here. Viet, you're about here. And where's Red Sand? Red Sand, you're about here. By this point, the rest of you have made your way up to the top of the ship. Old Sharkbite, Elryn, Koresh, Franklin, and all that have made their way, and they're all beginning to try and help rescue Oriana. But now Percy has fallen into the water. So what do you guys do?
I will probably.
No,
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, you can go.
I was just gonna say that I would probably jump in the water.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Try and help.
So it's not even like you're hesitating. You just jump overboard because the ocean's it's your scene. You're yeah.
Yeah.
So you just without
anything
hesitation.
I can do, it's this.
Yeah, you just run. You see Percy has just dropped past into the water, and without even so much as a thought, you just run and jump overboard and dive into the water. Like, elegant grace. Like when you hit the water, you don't even make a splash. You just and you go around, you swim around with ease, and you look up, and because you're of who you are, you see clearly in the water. You see Percy kind of like just like flailing about because he's also wearing his equipment, and he's kind of having a hard time trying to swim up. And you just go up underneath and lift his head above water so he can catch his breath, and you've got him there. At this point, Percy has actually drifted about this far away from the ship. So you're about there. What is old Sharkbite doing at this point?
I don't know if Cory's back. He said that he got a phone
call. Oh, he got a phone call. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, old Sharkbite's just standing there, wondering what to do.
I heard that.
Okay.
I just managed to get off.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, while you've been on the call, Percy has now fallen into the water. Elryn has jumped in, to save him. You and everyone else have.
That happen?
Well, when Red Santa and Viet were actually in the process of rescuing Oriana, but then as they began to pull her closer to the ship, the whale has breached again and crashed down, creating a huge wave, which knocked the persistent Imperial.
Whales.
Yeah, Moby Dick, who knew? And unfortunately, Percy wasn't ready for it because he was focused on the rescue. He didn't notice the whales coming up, and wasn't really holding onto the ship onto the crow's nest that well, and just tumbled out and fell into the water, hit it like a ton of bricks, got hurt, but luckily
didn't mean to do that.
And then old Sharkbite says, "I'll get it!" and throws a javelin at the whale.
I did mean to check though. I do have harpoons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently, Elryn has got Percy, like not out of the water, but kind of holding on to him. Viet, I need you to make another athletics check with advantage because Red Sand, I'm assuming, is still helping pulling Oriana in.
Yes.
Okay. So make another athletics check. Ooh. Okay, so as you're beginning to pull in and all that, you actually pull a bit too hard, and the actual rope begins to fray, and you kind of lose your grip. You manage to catch it, but the rope has now frayed. Not completely, but yeah, it could snap at any point. It could snap at any point. So Oriana only makes it about to here. And at this point, Koresh and the others have begun to run over to try and help. Koresh is going to help Viet. Franklin and the doctor run over to the other side, further up to the ship with another bit of rope, and they throw it as hard as they can overboard towards where Elryn and Percy currently are. I'll get Percy and Elryn to make perception, just to see if any one of you actually see them throwing the rope. Percy, not so much. Elryn, not so much. All right, so the doctor, the doctor, there we go. There you go. Using her strength, which is crap. She uses as much as she can to... Yeah. She throws the rope overboard, but she's not really built for strength, and she throws it short. It actually lands about here.
Well, that explains why we didn't see it.
So it's a combination of bad throw and poor eyesight.
So I'm just going to be like, trying not to obviously swallow heaps of water. I'm just going to be like, oh, God, someone please get me out of here. One liter of seawater. 1 billion bacteria.
Oh my gosh. I'd be like, stay still. You're making
Yeah.
it harder.
Yeah, this is actually something about. There's something about Percy that I don't know. Would Percy have divulged this sort of, flaw of his to others, or is he too embarrassed to keep it?
I guess
But-
not yet, but you guys will notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really panicking, so much so that Elryn, I actually need you to make another athletics check.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got a vice-like grip on him, and you're just basically holding onto him so much that, yeah, he's not going anywhere, even though he's flailing around. You're in your element, so you know how to operate in water. All right, so Viet, make another strength athletics check with advantage, and because Koresh is helping you, I'll reduce the DC needed to succeed.
Awesome. Let's go.
All right, sweet. Because Koresh and Red Sand are both helping you and all that, you're actually able to. You're now got the strength enough to actually pull against the ocean, and you actually pull Oriana almost to the side of the ship. So she's about there now. Red Sand, you look down, and you can, from where you're standing, despite how the height of the ship to where the water is about 20 feet, 20 to 25 feet. You can actually see that she's struggling now. It looks like fighting against the water, the ocean, and holding onto the rope is starting to take a toll on her. It looks like she might not last much longer. And with that in mind, I actually need to roll athletics to see if she actually holds on. If she does. She was actually smart. She actually wrapped some of the rope around her wrist to actually give her even more, to be more secure to the ship, to the rope, and that's been actually keeping her above water this whole time. Elryn,
Okay.
you've got Percy in your arms. What do? You've got the con, so to speak.
Yeah, I would just try and swim as close to the ship as I can. If I happen to see the rope on the way, I would grab onto it, try and tie it to Percy.
Sure. What I'll say is you swim towards the boat. I will get both Percy and you to make another perception. Percy, you do it at disadvantage because you're currently flailing like a schoolgirl. You're so panicked that you're not really taking in what's going on. So you roll that perception again for Percy. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I would say Percy. No, you don't. You're just in full panic mode. You're just not taking in what's going on. Your whole focus is a mixture of not drowning and other issues. Elryn, because he is flailing around so much, he's actually obscuring your vision of, you can see the ship, but you don't actually notice that the rope is dangling by the side of the ship.
Yep.
So, but you do manage to get to about here.
I mean, have I gone up to the top deck? I'm assuming.
Yeah, you are up the top deck now. You're with Franklin and the doctor. So, if there's anything you want to do, go for it.
I'll clatter up and I'll say, what be the situation we have up here?
So you clamber up, cool as a cucumber, and
I beckon Jones over to hold my place in the rope and before diving in to help out Oriana.
All right. So as you come up and you ask what's going on, Red Sand just basically tells you, "Come over here, hold onto this rope."
What are we fishing up? Have we come across driftwood.
Before he's even got the rope, I'm over the edge.
So, so you're about half holding onto the rope, and Red
I
Sand
guess because I know the importance of holding a rope on a ship, because that could mean anything. I'm gonna dive to catch the rope.
All right, so I'll get
Well,
you.
the others are still holding onto it as well, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
I would say you weren't really focused on Viet and all that. You just saw Red Sand basically take the rope and jump overboard, so you weren't really paying too much to them. So as far as you're aware, he was the one holding onto the rope, not the others. So yeah, I'll get.
I mean, my passive perception is 18.
So yeah, off the corner of your eye, you did kind of glance at the fact that.
Right, it's probably the parrot that notices and squawks or something. I'll waddle over to the rope then and hold it.
Yeah, you hold on to it.
Obviously, look over the side at what's actually happening.
Yep, cool.
Okay, so my aim here is to try and catch hold of Oriana and use my claws to latch us onto at least the side of the ship until we're a bit more steady.
All right, cool. So you dive in, you manage to swim up to the surface, grab a hold of Oriana. So I need you then to make a athletics check just to pull her towards the extra hole of the ship, which you do. So you manage to grab her under your left arm, and with your other arm you swim towards the hole of the ship, and you just stick your claw into the actual hole of the ship. Yeah. So I'll just.
Does the ship not have a boarding ladder?
No one's thought of that yet. They've all just been trying to make sure that the crew those that are in the water don't actually float away.
Is the ship moving?
It is still sailing away. So in a sense, they're kind of getting dragged sort of behind, like, where's the moving tool? Yeah, this is kind of getting dragged in this direction as it's sailing forward. But in actually saying that, okay, let's see.
I mean, if that's the case, then I would walk over, let go of the rope, because clearly other people are holding it. Walk over to the captain and say, "Have you ever sailed a ship before? Cast anchor, man overboard."
So you see the captain actually. He's the captain. Put a red mark on him. So the guy with the red dot is the captain. He kind of looks back at you, old Sharkbite, and you see that he's kind of been caught off guard by your son. You're fronting him about it, and he looks at you and goes, "Do not be giving me orders on my own ship." And then he looks back at Crash and he goes, "Well, you heard the man. Do what he said." So you see Crash just let go of the rope, and he's kind of like, "Oh shit, yeah, okay," and he runs off to where the anchor is. So yeah, so he runs off to. I'm thinking the anchor would be at the front.
Yeah, it looks like that's it there.
Yeah, that's it there. So yeah,
I'll walk over to the wherever the boarding ladder is, and if it's a rope ladder and it's up, then I'll walk down. Or if it's just
yeah, it's just a rope ladder. You see it piled up on the opposite, like just here. It's like so they can just flop it over the side. So you just grab it and then just lift it up and just chuck it over.
I'll roll it over the ship and I'll be like, "Swim over, swabbies. We don't have all the time in the world."
They don't actually hear that because they're currently at the bottom, basically holding on for dear life. The water's crashing around them, so they don't even hear what you're saying. They just feel the impact of the rope ladder on their heads because you managed to just literally drop it on top of them. But they do grab onto it, and you see Red Sand kind of like, lifting Oriana up, who then kind of begins to pull her way up. She's still holding on to the actual rope because it's just become like, vice-like grip. But after a short period, she actually starts to loosen the rope, and then she starts to slowly climb up. And Red's saying you're actually gripping onto the to the rope ladder as well, and begin to make your way up.
Yeah.
So, Elryn and Percy, at this point, I will say that you've swum to close enough that you actually notice the rope that's dangling down. So, who wants to try and reach out for it?
I'll try and...
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'll lift Percy up as best as I can to, closer to the rope. Yeah.
So I will just say, for the purposes of that, because he's soaking wet, he's wearing his armor and other equipment and all that. Make a athletics just to see if you can actually lift him up.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's not great, but it's enough that you were able to just lift him up enough so that he can start grabbing onto the rope. So, Percy, you now have a grip onto the rope. You're still panicking, but now you're holding onto this rope. Make a, wisdom saving throw.
Someone get me out of here.
All right. So,
Oh, I got out.
because I was determining whether or not you're in such a state that you got the rope, but you're just so overwhelmed with fear that you won't climb up. But you manage to kind of snap yourself out of it, and you start pulling further up and up and up, and you get to the top of the actual top of the ship, and you feel Franklin kind of run over, grabs you by the hand, and he just pulls you over, and you just, like a wet rag, just lands on deck. And Elryn, you just come up behind, grab the rope, and you're not as restricted by the water as what Percy is. You're just able to grab it, and you start pulling your way up. And after a short climb, you manage to climb over.
Nice.
So everyone is now on board. And the doctor begins to run over and starts checking each of the crew that was washed overboard. She runs over to you, Percy, because she sees that you've got some scrapes and cuts and all that kind of stuff, and she starts to to look you over. And by this point, the whale seems to have just swum away. And while this is all going on, Koresh has come back, and he's like, "Anchor lowered, sir." The captain just looks back and is like, "Very good. Right, let's get them all inside, out of the wet. Find out what the hell happened."
This may be a good omen for our journey.
I'm assuming you've never had a man overboard before, Mr. Jones.
I be having no legs, but I've never taken a dive before.
Well, let's hope that you don't have one this time.
I can't end in the water. You don't want to know what happens when I end in the water.
And he kind of gives you that perplexing look, because why would you be on a ship otherwise if you can't enter the water? There's the very good risk of you being in the water. And he just kind of looks at you for a moment, and then he just shakes his head as he begins to make his way over to the crew members that just got pulled out of the water. And he starts looking them over. It's been about 20 minutes since everyone made it back on board. Dr. Bervane has been looking over Percy, patching up his wounds. Nothing too severe, but still, it did definitely knock the wind out of him. Not that one. That's why. Let's see. So she's just gonna break out her medical bag and she starts patching you up, Percy.
Can I just like turn to her and be like, Doctor, please give it to me straight. What's my chances? Is the bacteria gonna kill me?
She just looks at you and she goes, "If anything's gonna kill you, little one, it'll be the hypothermia. So we need to get you out of these wet clothes and get you warm. As for the injuries, I won't worry too much. You'll be right to train in a few days."
Billions, it's all over my skin. And I'm just gonna start rubbing my arms and just like rocking a little bit.
Yeah, she kind of just stops for a moment and she's like, "Okay." So she's like, "There's nothing to worry about. You're safe now."
Have any soap?
We do. Let me just tend to you. Let me tend to your injuries first before we worry about cleaning you. All right, so she gets a bag out and she gets bandages and the salves and all that, and she kind of just dabs them onto the open wounds that you got from hitting the water and scraping against the hole, and she bandages up your arms and all that, and within about 5 minutes, all your cuts and wounds are all healed up. So you get 2 HP back from the care she gave you.
Alright, I'm just gonna look at her and be like, "Thank you, good doctor," and point me in the direction of the soap. And then...
And she kind of just goes, "That's quite all right. All right, that's what I'm here for." And she looks at Franklin. She goes, "Franklin, could you just take him to the soap?" And he just looks back at the doctor and then looks at Percy, and she's like, "Oh, if you say so, come on, let's go." And he just like leads you towards where the soap and all that is. And so let's see, back here somewhere. So he takes you below deck to where all the supplies are and all that kind of stuff. And he just takes out a bar of dried soap and he just looks at you and goes, "Here, if you really need it, here you go."
I'm just gonna grab the soap, and in my pocket I've got like a little hanky, and I just dust down the soap and then just start like lathering it in my hands.
And he just, "Okay, you sure you'll be alright here? I need to go up deck and see if anyone else needs help."
Yes, Percy's fine. I'm just gonna go in the corner here near the barrel and just start lathering up.
Sure. By this point, okay, so everyone at this point, now that you're actually on deck, there we go. Ariana just is just like coughing up water and taking a deep breath, and you can see the terror in her eyes after what just happened. And she kind of just looks over at you, Redsane, and she just grabs onto you. And she just looks at you and she goes, "Someone pushed me! Someone pushed me!" She just says that over and over towards you. What do you do, Redstone?
I just hold her back and just shh.
Yeah. And you can see she's a bit like, she's a mixture of like, you can see anger and fear. And she's like, is that all you have to say? Someone nearly tried to kill me, and all you do is shh me? Who was it?
I'll look over at the quartermaster and say, I think your gunner is a bit salt crazy.
She hears that.
Well, I say that out loud.
Okay. She looks at you. You stupid old fool! I'm not making this up. Someone pushed me. They tried to kill me. For all I know, maybe it was you. I don't know you. I don't know any of you. I don't trust them. I don't trust you either. Maybe you want more share of the treasure that we're trying to get. Thought getting rid of me would guarantee you an extra share.
Well, I was down below decks, and I have nae 2 legs to quickly come up after ye. So unless ye think me legs grew back, I ain't the one that's done it to ya.
At this point, you see the captain come up, and he's just like, looks at Oriana and basically just tells her, it's like, why would anyone want to push you overboard? It just doesn't make any sense. And Koresh just pipes up and goes, there was no one around her, Captain. She was by herself. She just fell overboard. And Oriana keeps piping up and goes, I didn't fall overboard. I was pushed overboard.
Well, wasn't it there a whale that bumped the ship or something?
A whale breached out of the water about 200 feet. It's about 200 feet away from the ship. And when they actually hit the water, the wave caused by it hit the ship. But she's saying that it wasn't like she didn't fall over when that happened. It was like she was pushed. And she's like, I know I was pushed. I felt someone's hand on my back. I'm not lying to you, Captain. Someone here, one of the newbies, tried to kill me. And he just looks and he goes, I don't believe that. I think you're just hysterical from almost dying. Right now you need to go get dry yourself off. Get the doctor to look at you. And he pipes up and he goes, this is nothing more than an accident. But let this be a warning. Do not be so liberal-minded in the fact that you're safe on board, because anything could happen. Now, get back to your duties. And with that, he turns and makes his way to inside the cabin here. And you see Koresh kind of walk over, picks Oriana up, and he just says, come on, we'll go see the doctor. She'll be able to help you. And you can see the anger in Oriana's face as she believes that, she knows that she believes that she's not making it up, but she's frustrated the fact that no one else actually, doesn't appear to be believing in her. So yeah. And with that, everyone goes off and continues their duties. And I think with that little incident over, we might call it a night, finish up for the night. So I think that's a good stopping point until next week.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was a rather interesting beginning. Definitely rusty on the whole DM scale, but definitely will improve next week. So yeah. Should be interesting to see how things progress.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely.
All right.
Chris,
yes.
just before we head off,
yeah.
Is there a date as to when we've started this adventure?
As in, like, Forgotten Realms Day?
Yeah.
At this stage, I haven't thought of one, but if is it like necessary for now or for later?
For next session probably, but like there's
Well,
dates and that in the log, so.
Okay, yeah. I will give you a date as to when the Persistent Imperial shipped out.
Awesome.
I'll give it to you before next session. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of which, I was thinking of doing the next session for Monday at the stage, but that can change depending on people's availability. Mm-hmm. So for the moment, we'll mark it down as for next Monday, but that could change, as I said. So,
Cool.
All right, if that's suitable for everyone.
At this stage, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I say, at this stage, we'll do the next session for next Monday, but that could subject to change.
Yep.
Depending on people's, like, suddenly someone forgot it was their birthday next week or something like that. Who knows? So thank you again for taking this journey with me on this adventure, and I look forward to seeing how it progresses in the next session.
Thank you for running.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to seeing how this session appears on the Twitch or the YouTube, because you said you're going to put it on YouTube or something. Yeah,
I'll put it up on YouTube, and it will also be available on Twitch for a couple more weeks as well.
All right, cool.
So on that note, thank you to watchers, if there's anybody who stuck with us for this entire session. And
yes, thank you for our unusual way of actually doing things.
And also thank you to those if you're watching this at a later date as well.
Indeed, yes, and hope that you continue to watch us in the future.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's all about experience, and just know to swim, people. Swimming is important.
I'm actually kind of surprised that you didn't make Red Sand have to roll to see if she came to the surface.
Yeah, well, I thought, considering that Red Sand was just, willing to just jump in the water without even a hesitation, I'm like, nah. It wasn't like she fell in, it was like she dove in. So.
It was an intentional, so she knew what she was doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it.
She had a plan, whether or not she could act out that plan.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Well, anyway, thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all for the next session.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good night, folks.
Thanks, you guys too. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everyone.